People who are still against S before marriage. Why? Because you'll hold up the ceremony. All the guests are waiting patiently. I'm totally fine with it as long as they open the bar early. It is their special day, after all. Imagine the bride and groom announce they're heading upstairs for a quickie. But everyone, please help yourself to the bar while you wait for us. I can totally see some people doing this already. I wouldn't doubt if someone has. And you'll wrinkle the dress. As long as it's a white dress, the jizz stains won't show up. My cousin is very religious. He met a girl in January, proposed in February and married in June. No one in my family will admit it, but I'm pretty sure they moved so fast because they're horny lol. This happens a lot in Brazil. Also, some girls only do anal to preserve their chastity. Go figure. My cousin is like yours, but every time she gets together with a dude and starts mentioning marriage and stuff, they run away. Also, some girls only do anal to preserve their chastity. Go figure. Ah, the old poop hole loophole. I always love seeing religious people trying to find loopholes in these things. Like, do they really think they're pulling a fast one on God? I live in Salt Lake City, aka Mormonville, USA. Been here 5 years. Proposed to my GF of 4 years and then we went ring shopping. We went to the same jeweler that most Mormons go. The salesperson told us their record for shortest time they were aware of for a couple meeting for the first time shopping for wedding bands was 28 days. Their 100% money back guarantee is 90. Momo kids are horny as F. Also, see the definition for soaking. Yes, real. Is that the one where you just put it inside and sit there cause only the movement counts? And sometimes a friend jumps on the bed so you get the movement, but it's not you moving so it doesn't count? Personally, I'm not against it, but I know someone that is. And she said she personally wants to share that experience only with one person in her life and wants to be sure that they'll be together forever. So she wants to be married before. What was interesting to me was that she said she wouldn't mind if her then husband would have not waited. It's just her preference. I don't share that opinion, but I understand her point of view. Good for her. But ever since having S, I've realized that losing my virginity was not as big of a deal as I thought when I had it. Now that I know better, I just can't see this idea holding up. S is just S. But if it works for her, then it's her business after all. Virginity is only a big deal to virgins. Otherwise, why would someone prefer someone that won't be good at S? Never made sense to me. I think some people prefer virgins because virgins won't be able to judge how bad selfish their partner is at S as easily. What if they're bad at S? Now you will never experience good S and die. Edit. What if you die from bad S before they get better at it? Huh? What then? Great point. Booger AIDS 420. Redditors try to respect other viewpoints about relationships challenge. Impossible. ITT. People getting legitimately angry and offended because someone, gasp, wants to save themselves from marriage and has a different view on S than them. BS positive Goddard, but not in that way. Redditors being able to differentiate between different people who hold different viewpoints challenge. Impossible. Redditors try to have opinions about S. There's a joke there, I know. Redditors try to have S. Impossible challenge. I was against S before marriage, but no longer am. My husband and I were pretty religious while dating, so we waited until marriage. I'm sad about the missed opportunities we had lol. It was extremely hard waiting the 5 years we dated and then having to turn off that part of your brain once you are married is weird. We've been married 7 years now and I still feel a sense of anxiety like I'm sinning when we're intimate. It definitely messed my subconscious up. I think the shame about S that's pounded into people is definitely harmful to their psyche. There's gotta be a better way to prevent teenage pregnancies. I think the current trend is that they're falling. Probably due to better S-ed that focuses on understanding and preventing unwanted pregnancies. Honestly, the better way is to educate and demystify S. Teach the physical mechanics, the chemical effects on brain and body, the risks of pregnancy and disease, the psychological impacts some people experience and others don't. Appropriate S-ed has been proven already to be effective. But parents and lawmakers who don't want their kids to hear the word S until their wedding day are heck bent on making that the world standard instead of a personal parenting choice. Yep, they stubbornly ignore data that shows that proper S-ed is way more likely to prevent teenage S and negative consequences than abstinence-only education. When there is real-world data, it's not just an opinion, it's a fact. Did you hey self-pleasury? Dirty talk on phone? Send pics? Or was it totally nothing the whole time? When the nose is religious to me it seems like that would mean no oral, shaded naked times, or even like cuddling because it's all leading to the coveting of others etc., etc. Then some people are posting that anal was okay, etc. But those are all second-hand stories. Yes, we did do other stuff, which is so stupid to think that just because we didn't have actual intercourse, I thought we were safe from being sent to heck. My reasons were religious mainly. On top of it, I find S to be very exposing and something to do when I feel safe and close. I never wanted a relationship built on S or physical and that only. I wanted to build a relationship on trust and communication first and physical second, and that boundary helped me do that. Same here. It can be hard for me to open up to people. So not waiting until marriage would make me super uncomfortable. S can put you in a very vulnerable. Plus there are so many horror stories of nudes or other information to do with S leaking. I fully understand anyone who waits until marriage. For some the fun of it may not outweigh the vulnerability it can put you in. Marriage doesn't make comfort. Time together does. True. But to a certain degree marriage does kind of imply time spent together. I say kind of because in practice not always. It trains you for the realities of marriage and prepares you for many more years of not having S. Counterpoint. Having plenty of S before marriage can help you become a decent enough lover that you won't have a S marriage. Having a lot of S does not guarantee you will be good at S. Some of the worst S I've ever had was with dudes who had been around the block a time or two. All my worst S was with people who had been around a lot. I'd rather guide a novice and feel like it's a shared experience than feel bullied. I had a friend who was planning on waiting until her wedding night. Fiancé was more religious than her, but then got it in her head that the hottest thing in the world would be to convince her true believer fiancé to F her the night before the wedding, after waiting 2 years. It took some work, and alcohol, but she did it. Apparently it was amazing, despite the lack of experience. Because the forbidden aspect got both of them all hot and bothered. That and they were both really horny. Edit, to be clear, they each had 2 glasses of champagne. That sounds pretty coercive. That's straight up coercion. Not sure why everyone is praising it. Because Reddit dislikes religion more than RE. As a woman, setting boundaries helped me find quality men who were interested in me as a partner instead of just S. Plus to me, the key to a successful marriage has more to do with communication and the ability to resolve conflict rather than S. It's worth it to focus on building up those SKS instead of a SWAL relationship, which is often built on infatuation. As a woman, I've tried both strategies and found that I very much prefer finding men who are both good at communication and infatuated with me. If you take S off the table, then you'll miss out on partners who have both qualities. That's totally fair. I'm glad you found what works for you. Maybe I just got lucky, but I ended up with a partner who does well with both qualities. I think part of it is that at the core, we really care about each other as people and want happiness for each other. Well, no, you just picked good criteria. You want someone with good communication SKS, and the ability to resolve conflict. Guess what's great in the bedroom? Communication and a little give and take. If you find someone who cares about you outside of the bedroom, he'll probably care about you in the bedroom too. As a woman, feel the exact same way. You W out the ones just looking for S and not a committed relationship pretty quickly by saying that you're waiting till marriage. There's a counter pressure too, though. If someone was genuinely interested and said they're waiting till marriage, I'd have to leave too. So all intimacy is a huge part of a relationship, and I'm not willing to marry someone when there's this huge part of them I don't know about. It'd be like your partner not introducing you to their friends or not telling you their job until you're married. Waiting till they're ready and comfortable with you is one thing, but a good S life is a prerequisite for marriage. Not the other way around. I'm just against marriage. No marriage, no S, no problems. Even if you ignore the religious moral arguments, waiting poses far fewer risks of STDs, unwanted pregnancies when you're not ready for a kid, and even just avoiding regrets if you break up before getting married and wish you hadn't slept with them. Bruh, I'm gonna introduce you to something called a condom. You millennial with your newfangled technology. Generation A. Glans condoms were invented in China in the 1400s. I grew up believing no S till marriage largely due to the late 90s early 2000s church youth true love waits push. It was the thing to do during those times. My now wife and I both were brought up the same way. We got married in our late 20s. I'm over 40 now, and realize it was a mistake. 1. It's actually created friction between us. My wife was taught that S is bad. Stay away from it, etc., and even after marriage to this day, she struggles to shake that mentality that was enforced for so long. We were lucky to do it twice a week even early on in our marriage, and even now, maybe 23 times a month. To be fair, we have small kids and they do take up a lot of energy. But overall, it has taken a huge toll on our marriage. A lot of those who grew up in the purity culture movement of the 1990s and early 2000s were taught that once you got married, it would be like flipping a light switch, and everything will be amazing. Except those same dipshits always claimed that S was evil and impure, and that mentality sticks with you even after tying the knot. Yeah, S takes time to figure out, and it's rarely amazing in the beginning. There should be more education about the realities of it and what makes it good, the intimacy, connection, etc. What is the worst reason to have a baby? Why? To save the relationship. It never works. It just drags an innocent baby into a miserable situation. This is more common than people think. I have to wonder if anyone, anywhere, ever has actually improved a relationship by having a child. I'm sure some have managed to extend the life of a troubled relationship by adding a baby to the mix. But improving the relationship? Making it a relationship worth staying in? I don't see that happening. Well, it would have helped Henry VIII. I think you have to specify a son in this situation. But yeah, imagine if Catherine of Aragon had a son or two. Henry might just be a blip on the radar of English monarchs without all the fuss and bother of 6 wives, etc. But then we wouldn't have had Elizabeth I, and that makes me a little sad. It's a vicious biological competition of a society that taught women they are not complete if they do not become mothers. I have a cousin who recently graduated medical school. Apparently her mom said something along the lines of, "Congratulations. Talk to me when you can actually get a man to settle down and start a family with you." I told her that her mom, my aunt through marriage, sounds unbalanced, but she just said that's the way she was raised. She doesn't know any better. She says that, but you can tell it really bothers her. And she recently reconnected with the jackass she dumped last year for cheating on her. It's depressing all the way around. To have an organ donor for later? It said worst reasons. Unfortunately, there are people out there with children with terminal illnesses that will purposely have more babies to see if they are donor matches for kidneys and bone marrow. I personally think it's a save your siblings, like in My Sister's Keeper. Horrible indeed. I was going to say, for supper. Your parents wanted grandkids. Ugh. My family would tell me that they'd pay for everything if I had a kid. Money was my main reason I was waiting when I was younger. I eventually had a kid and they haven't given me a FN penny. Bunch of liars. My wife and I will jokingly bring it up when we see them. They always get embarrassed and change the subject. If it's not in writing, it did not happen. My grandpa wrote to me in a letter for my 6th birthday that said he would give me his Jaguar when I turned 16. He sold it less than a year before my 16th birthday. My mother, I want grandkids. Me, you have 2 other children to ask. Dad has already started asking. I got married on Friday. To compete with someone. The Duggars? You get +5 Jesus points for every kid after the 4th one. What prizes can you get with those points? This was my ex. We need to have babies. Other couples are beating us and are already on 3. Don't worry, didn't do it. My dad had an incredibly effed up and traumatizing childhood. Instead of dealing with his subsequent mental illnesses, a person at his church told him to have lots of kids. It will heal your trauma. So he had 6 and we ended up homeless at certain points and traumatized ourselves. Idiot. Sorry about this. Have you each considered having children to heal your own traumas too? Just make sure you have more than 6. I would think 10 would be a good start. If you're still traumatized after that, maybe adopt a few and see if that helps. No. You have to take up the 100 baby challenge in real life, obviously. I'm currently dealing with a boss who needs some therapy, who's using the church as a mask for real help. Bible study every morning at 6 a.m. for years, and the dude still hasn't realized when he's stressed he lashes out. A therapist will tell you that in one session and give you directly usable advice on how to correct yourself. I'm pretty certain the church just keeps telling him to ask Jesus for help when he has problems. That poor dude. I really dislike how much of a stigma there is on men seeking mental health therapy. I'm a Christian and I do believe in asking God for help. But as I believe therapists exist because God made it so. Just like healthcare stuff in general. It's just weird to not utilize the things I believe God have to us for our own well-being. To use it as a content on social media. This is my baby, Beigely. She's my favorite now that Roxanne is 2 and throws tantrums that don't fit my aesthetic. And that aesthetic is 4 different shades: eggshell white, taupe, beige, and light olive. Oh, there are few things I dislike more than the sad beige baby trend. I'm a lover of all things colorful anyway, but it just seems cruel to do that to a developing baby. I used to watch this girl on YouTube who talked about makeup and clothes and just lifestyle stuff. The second she got pregnant, had a baby, her videos were day in the life of a toddler mama. Top 5 best toddler products. Spend the day with me and my toddler, shoving the camera in the baby's face in every video. Blocked. To sell them. Daughters are being sold into child marriage and sons are sold for forced child labor in many countries. Or adoption mills. I know someone who adopted from a Central American country about 20 ago. Wonderful little girl. When the girl was about 13 or 14, she discovered that she had at least 4 siblings who had also been adopted as babies and were living in the US. Makes you wonder. It gets so much worse. After adolescence, girl began to have psychotic episodes. Turns out that she had lived in a nursery much of the first year in her life, and was completely neglected. Yes, that blows up on people at some point. She is now in an institution. In Cambodia in the 80s and 90s there was an elaborate network of adoption mills working with the authorities that resulted in the kidnapping of a huge amount of children. The corruption was exposed all the way up the ladder. Really horrible. Similar thing happened in Israel a long while back. Read up on the Yemenite children affair. My great-aunt's sister was a victim. They were Jewish Yemeni, and fled Yemen when my aunt was a baby to escape anti-Semitism. But in Israel, they were oppressed for being Yemeni, so there was no winning. The Israeli government stole Yemeni Jewish babies and adopted them out to white Jewish families. Government only admitted to it as recently as 2016. My aunt is an old woman now, and has no living blood family that she knows of. I am related to her through marriage. Her stolen sister and any descendants she may have had are probably out there somewhere. But they will never know each other. It's very sad. Prejudice destroyed so many families. This is the worst reason of all. In Western countries, it's nowhere near the same. But people who keep having kids hoping to get their preferred gender are also pretty bad. We finally got our boy at baby 6. Like, congrats? You had 4 kids in the interim you technically didn't want, that you admit you only had as filler. Yeah, I heard of a couple who did that. I think it was literally their 6th kid they finally got the boy. There's no way they're going to be treating all 6 of their kids equally. The girls will be treated less than and they will know it. It also makes me think of that gender reveal video where the dad is so excited about a boy that he shakes the ever-loving SH out of his baby daughter. Having a kid for a specific gender. Yeah, I loved the comments after our second daughter was born. So are you going to have a third and try for a boy? Heck no. That's when twin girls happen. If we were destined to have a boy it would have happened. My grandparents had 3 daughters, but they wanted a son. Guess what they did? They fostered baby boys and ended up adopting one. Better than having a house full of children. That's probably a good thing. There are way too many kids in the foster adoption system as it is. Adding a specific anything. Some people think kids are something you order from a menu. I want a daughter who's quiet and respectful and wins national spelling bees and a popular outgoing son who will be star of his football team. Who cares what their actual talents and interests are? My dad was disappointed that my sister and I were both girls, but he helped raise my nephew, and once my nephew hit like 7 it became pretty obvious the issue was less his gender and more that my dad had this picture in his head that his son would be successful in all the ways that he thought he himself would have been if he had had more supportive parents. Unfortunately for him, my nephew shared his personality. Congrats Dad. You the smart A who likes to talk back and disrespected authority. Growing up had a smart A daughter who got in trouble for never listening and a smart A grandson who does the same. Note my dad loved my nephew, but darn it was funny to see him have to change the mental image of what have a boy was like. I know better but still felt a pang of disappointment at having a boy since I love sewing and crafts and thought I lost my chance to pass those SKS down. Well, my son is totally into crafts and a friend of mine who also does crafts sewing has a girl the same age and her daughter has 0 interest in crafts. I did laugh at myself for that one. Because you find them cute. They aren't a pet. Can confirm. Puppies are cuter, and listen better. As a husky owner I'm not sure I relate to the listen better part. Yeah. Kids aren't anywhere near as great as pets. It's not their fault, though. Measuring up to my dog is an unenviable task. Plus it's generally looked down upon to keep them collared and leashed in public. To use as a doorstop. This one needs more attention. You're not wrong. So you can understand the pain I went through and understand how horrible it is, Mom. And actively tries to push it. Like, when are you having kids? You are having kids, right? Then get visibly angry when she says no she's not. She doesn't want them. When I was being especially difficult, as a child adolescent, my mom used to say I hope someday you have a child exactly like you. I would reply thank you. Never failed to crack her up. My mom said that to me too. Silly mom, I didn't choose to be your effing child, but I do get a choice in whether or not I have to be a parent. I ate my share of SH, now you must, too, so I will feel better about myself. Misery loves company. To be responsible for their disabled sibling in the future. Yes, I had a friend tell me she wanted another child so that her disabled son would have someone when if she passed away. My parents recently rewrote their trust so that I have to take care of my brother, without consulting me. They never listen when I say I'm not going to do it. Don't you have to agree and sign something too? The parents here are basically saying any inheritance is contingent upon this person caring for the disabled sibling. Under the law, this person isn't obligated to care for the sibling but will not receive the inheritance unless they do. Essentially, they care for the sibling or get cut out of the will. This is why my parents kept me. My parents tried to pressure me into not joining the military or flight school because who's gonna take care of my brother if something happens to me? My dad has said multiple times since I was like 5 or 6 that I'm gonna have to take care of him when they die. I love my brother, but I want my own life too. That's tough, for sure. I think that's the biggest problem with it. It creates an impossible situation where one child already has their life predetermined for them. Definitely not cool. I'd definitely take care of my sibling if something happened. But just knowing that your entire purpose was to be their caretaker sucks. Not sure where you're at in that military flight school thing. But 100% do it. Flying is the awesome.